Hi, Kat.
Hey, Rebecca. Hi, Teresa. It's nice to meet you.
Oh, turn your speaker, Teresa. I can hear it because she's right there, but
Nice to meet you guys too.
I'm so looking forward to hearing more about the work you all are doing and for this session. So thanks for being here.
Yeah.
We're excited to be here.
Awesome. It sounds, did you say you got ice or snow? Like an ice storm came through, Melanie?
Last week we had a couple big snowstorm. Yeah, It's been pretty cold. But no, this week I think we're okay until Friday. There's supposed to be another little blast of something. But we'll find out.
Hopefully a little later. So I just wanted to check in. Let's see. So Melanie and Teresa, you're both going to, you both have presentations and you'll both go ahead and share your screen for those. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, great. And so James or Rebecca, can you just confirm that Melanie and Teresa and I that we're all co-hosts and can share screen? Melanie and Teresa, do you have the share screen button on the bottom of your Zoom?
I do. I'm just going to test it real quick.
That sounds great.
Disable participant screen sharing. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. James or Rebecca, I know you're probably getting.
Hi, so it's only
the others.
Teresa that's not co-host. Everybody else is, and we need to get Rebecca to do that. I can't do that, unfortunately.
Okay, great. I'll text her really quick.
Yeah, it looks like I can share here. I'll pull mine up just real quick while we're getting her added. Can you see that?
Yes. Beautiful.
Okay.
And everybody but Teresa's co-host right now, so I'll ask her to do it too.
Okay, great. Thanks, James.
Oh, we don't need that. Okay. Sorry, I'm talking to myself here.
Oh my gosh, Melanie.
Teresa has all this beautiful artwork behind her. I just have a messy office, so I put I put my favorite background on. Well, and I've had the chance to sit in on a couple of sessions, not as many as I had hoped, just because we've got so much going on, but the recordings will be great to watch.
Yeah, great. Good.
I did get to sit in on Saturday. I listened in on the naming seeds.
Yeah.
And that was so powerful. It was really, really good. I got excited to hear that conversation. I was telling Teresa about it a little bit.
Oh, excellent. I'm happy you were able to join. Yeah, I was kicking myself, like, who put all of these fabulous sessions together in concurrent sessions? Then I was like, oh, that was me. I mean, I ended up being the final Tetris person with the support of some committee members, but I wasn't able to join that one. So I'm looking forward to seeing the recording.
Oh, well, yeah, definitely. It was really good. And yeah, it sounds like there's many more conversations to be had. So that's also, I think, exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, awesome.
So
Teresa, do you want to try? Or do we know if she's got screen share yet?
If have to, maybe you could just go first, Melanie.
Yeah, I could if we need to. Do you want to try and share your screen again or no? Or does it show?
I can try, yeah. Oh, I'm there.
Oh, great. Okay.
Let me just make sure everything's all good here.
Nice.
Can you see it?
Yeah. Can you do I guess oh, there we go.
Are we good?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay.
Cool.
Okay, so I'm gonna unshare. Oh, goodness. How do I do that? Oh, there it is.
Up
Right
at the top.
Found it. Sorry.
It's okay.
I think I just
I know you
panicked a
do it so
little.
many times and then you go blank.
Oh my gosh, what did I do?
So Melanie and Teresa, I wanted to make sure, I have so many details running through my head, but I just want to make sure that I have the flow correct for this session. So you two are both going to present and then we'll save Q&A for after your presentations. Is that?
They can ask anytime for me, but whatever Melanie decides is fine with me too.
I'm fine with however we want to do it, you know, since we're both we're talking about our program together, but Teresa's focusing on one aspect of it and I'm kind of focusing on another. And
Okay.
so if they have questions, I would think, so that they don't forget, you know, I would feel like they could ask at any time if they want,
Okay.
or they could put them in the chat too, or whatever you recommend. So I'm going to shut my door just so we don't have any reverb.
I'm taking the lead from you two. That sounds great. We'll just take them throughout and we can do chat or they can come off mute. And we'll just start out with some housekeeping and then I'll introduce both of you. And then it sounds like I should pass the mic to you, Teresa. Teresa, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay. I think I'm texting with Rebecca, who I think is maybe running double duty in another session and moving technology in a session that has some live interpretation. Or maybe James, you are our lead here today. I'm not quite sure, but I'm looking for direction from the two of you on when we want to get started. All right, Rebecca says she's on it. Got it. Thanks, Rebecca. Hi, welcome, folks. Welcome. We're just letting everybody in here. Beautiful. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're tuning in from. Welcome to day 5 of the Organic Seed Growers Conference. And thank you so much for joining us here at the Bees as Seeds, the importance of place, power, and purpose in seed production and pollination conversation panel. My name is Kathleen McCluskey, and I have the honor to serve as the Organic Seed Growers Conference Planning Committee lead. And I'm also the Outreach Director for Organic Seed Alliance, and I'll be moderating today's session. I am joined here today by 2 technology leads, Rebecca Koronowski-Woods and James Haldane. Thank you both for being here and pulling all the levers in the back, and for all of the work that you've been putting in for the whole week for this virtual event. It's really impressive and stellar, and very humbled by the work you all are doing. And I'm also thrilled to be joined here by our 2 presenters on the panel today, who are both joining us from the Institute of American Indian Arts in Santa Fe, New Mexico, Melanie Kirby and Teresa Quintana. Hi, welcome. Let's see, we'll do just a few housekeeping things before we get really rolling. I want to invite you, if you're having any technology issues or questions for the technology throughout the session, you can put them in the chat, or you can email them to helpdesk@seedalliance.org. I also want to let folks know that this session is being recorded and will only capture active speakers. So if you would prefer to not be included in the recording, you can just simply participate by using the chat function and you'll stay off the recording replay completely. And a replay of this video or of this panel will be available in Organic Seed Commons, possibly later today, but likely just later in the week. So the flow, how the session's going to go today is that we're going to hear from both of our panelists who are going to be presenting kind of simultaneously about the work that they do and the Institute, and we'll be welcoming, or they're welcoming, questions throughout the whole session. So as you have questions, you can pop them in the chat. We'll be keeping an eye there. You can also use the raise hand function in Zoom, which you can find in the reactions button. If you click on the reactions button along the bottom of your Zoom screen. Before we get any further, Rebecca, are you still there? Can you pop our shared agreements back up on our screen share?
Yes, one moment.
Thank you. Thank you. Wonderful, thank you. So yeah, before we really get into the session, I did want to just ground ourselves once again for folks who've been joining us throughout the event and brand new to those who might just be joining us for the first time for this session. Here are shared agreements that we're engaging in to tend to this space together and in community. And so during this time, I'm going to start actually at the bottom and say we're aiming for connection and not perfection here, and then pop right up to giving some grace for technical and logistical difficulties. We've got some tech people running double time right now during this concurrent session. And so, yeah, some grace would be beautiful and welcomed. We also agreed to listen to our bodies and tend to their needs, to critique ideas and not people, to remember that no one has a monopoly on truth and everyone's experience is valid, to be aware of who is missing in each conversation, to be as present as possible, and to speak only for ourselves and make space for others. And so with that, thank you so much, Rebecca. So with that, I am really just pleased to introduce our speakers today. First, I'll begin with Melanie Kirby. Melanie began keeping bees 25 years ago with indigenous communities in Paraguay as a US Peace Corps volunteer. The bees inspired her to connect her own indigenous and mestiza heritage to the interconnected dynamics of agroecology, cultural diversity, scientific inquiry, and artistic expression. In 2005, she established Zia Queen Bee's Farm and Field Institute in the Southern Rocky Mountains of northern New Mexico, which focuses on nurturing regionally adapted bees, collaborative bee breeding projects, pollination services, exquisite hive products, and consilience research. Melanie serves on several regional and national beekeeping organization boards and participates in local and regional farming associations. She is also a tribal member of the Tortugas Pueblo, originally from southern New Mexico. She is a Fulbright Fellow and a National Geographic Explorer. Melanie serves as the extension educator at the Institute of American Indian Arts. And we're also joined today by Teresa Quintana, who is a wife, a mother, an auntie, descendant of warriors, multifaceted artist, and an agriculturalist. Teresa feels growing and decolonizing indigenous plants is a living art that can empower communities and future generations. The simple beauty in nature or mankind inspires her. She believes that art has the power to educate, inspire, raise awareness of injustice, and be the consciousness of a society. Teresa is part of the gardening team, operations, instruction, and outreach for all things related to the campus demonstration garden and greenhouse at the Institute of American Indian Arts. And she thrives in encouraging and in fostering an environment where Native students can reach their full educational potential. Teresa received her bachelor's in fine arts, studio arts from the Institute of American Indian Arts in 2013, and she currently serves as the Land Grant Program Associate, IAIA Staff Council Chair, and Associated Student Government Advisor at the Institute. Welcome to you both. Please feel free to use your camera and your clap hands to welcome our panelists today. And with that, I am going to turn the mic over to you, Teresa, to get going.
Hi, everybody. It's good to see you today. Like she said, my name is Teresa Quintana. I'm a Kiowa, originally from Oklahoma, and I live here now in Cochiti Pueblo, where I'm married into the Pueblo. So I have been working in our land grant garden and greenhouse. I started as a student in 2010 when we first started the whole program. What inspired me, or what my interest was at that time, some of my family members were starting to get type 2 diabetes, and in particular, my father-in-law. And when I would go to visit him, I didn't know what to feed him. You know, I know that there's a certain diet I didn't know a lot about that illness. And so I began to research in my studies here at school. So I found out that Native people are 5 times more likely to develop type 2 diabetes. And of course, with the research, I was like, well, why is that? You know, well, it has to do with the food that we're eating. Our diet now consists of food that's basically post-colonial. It's post-contact food. The explorers, when they came to our continent, they didn't think there would be anything to eat, of course, or, you know, they weren't sure what there would be. So of course they, like we all do when we travel, we take food with us. They brought cows, chickens, pigs, wheat, and, you know, whatever they needed to survive. And once they got here, we had a lot of food already. We have hundreds of varieties of beans and corns and squash, all kinds of wild plants that are edible, that, you know, well, now they grow wild, what have you. There were all kinds of animals that our people ate. And so the diet changed a little bit. And then, not to mention, once our people were put onto reservations, we could, I come from a nomadic tribe, and we followed the buffalo herds. Our whole everything surrounded around the buffaloes. And once they put us on reservations, our men could no longer go hunt, and ladies couldn't gather. They could gather within that reservation, but the men couldn't hunt anymore. So that started the food commodity program that still exists today on reservations. So what that is they were like, well, they're going to starve to death. We got to give them something to eat. So they started giving us wheat flour and bacon and, you know, cow meat, things like that. And those things they're genetically incompatible with our bodies. So a lot of Native people are lactose intolerant. They can't drink a lot of milk from a cow. So with that research, I started finding out that we don't really need some of the things that we've been grown up, for instance, milk. There's calcium. They want us to, you know, it's recommended to drink milk for calcium. There's calcium in plants, and our body absorbs more of the calcium from those plants than it does the milk. So that's just one example of how things changed. Of course, wheat, they brought that they have to make their host for communion, right? Those are made out of wheat, versus us natives, we use corn to pray with. So those little adjustments here and there, and that's where my interest came in. So now I'm here at the Institute working and teaching, the students about this. Of course, it's a big movement. It's great. I love it. But our students can really get their hands dirty and help us grow things and taste these different foods that maybe they haven't tasted before, and be introduced to their ancestors' foods or our ancestors' foods. And hopefully they take that information back to their families and their communities and share that with them. And people start getting a little bit healthier. So I'll go ahead and start my presentation. Let me, let's see. Okay, so let me get that guy out of there. Okay. So we're at the Institute of American Indian Arts, and this is the land grant garden and greenhouse. So this is our garden. This is located pretty much in the central part of our campus. It's a tiered garden. So this would be the first tier. This one right here is the second tier. This half circle is the third tier. And then we have this bottom area. We have an orchard that has peach, apple, and pear trees. We have a greenhouse. It's located behind this cottonwood tree. We have an apiary that's behind the greenhouse. So we'll talk about the raised beds a little bit. These raised beds, they're more of a modern type of growing system than, they didn't have these traditionally, but that's okay, because this gives us an example of, we can show different methods of growing. So these are set on a drip irrigation. They have covers that we can put, a hemp cover for springtime or fall when it gets a little bit cool. And then they have a plastic cover that goes over that one, that we can actually produce crops all year round in these things. They work really well. They're just like little growing machines. Tomatoes go crazy in these things. And of course you can put the drip on a timer, and it can just become its own growing little world. It's really cool though. So we encourage community members to take one of these beds and grow their own food. That way they can take it home and eat it and things like that. Not a whole lot of people have participated in that yet, but we're still trying. We're trying to get them to get in there and do it. And we have a lot of students interested this year, so that's really encouraging. This is one of a project that we did this summer. We do different little research projects. Some of them are a little more formal. This one was informal. This was a corn research project. So what we wanted to know is there a difference, or what is our difference if we're going to continue to grow like our grandfathers taught us with those methods, which is basically 4 corn in a hole, take a little stride and another one, and so forth and such. Our gardener, Paul, he wanted to try going a little closer, putting just 2 corns in a hole and making the rows even a little bit closer to see what would happen. And then let me see. Okay, so this is part of the section. So we did it. It was a big long section. We divided into 3. So this was the traditional area. This one was the 6 or 2 holes in the thing. And then the next section we did, the last section, it was more aesthetically, we were just having fun really with the students, and the gardener said, well, let's just do lightning bolts. So he called these lightning bolts. And what he did was planted the corn 2 per like every 6 inches in these little, in the mounds, and then irrigated inside this little middle part. And then of course that area. So then we watched it to see what it was going to do. And we took so this is what it looks like as we were going. It got pretty tall. We got a good yield from it. This is, it looks great. You can tell this area needed some more nitrogen in the soil, so that could have some things to play. So we'll do this
Teresa,
over the
Teresa,
next 3 years.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Teresa. This is Kat. I just want to, I am not seeing your cursor on your screen when you're pointing things out, just as
Okay.
a heads up to you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Because I'm really using it.
Thanks. Sorry to
Okay,
interrupt.
Thank you. I'm glad you told me that.
There's also a question real quick, Teresa,
Okay.
about the water are we using well water? I know you had mentioned the drip system.
Okay, no, it's from the hose. I think we're using city water. We're a little bit out of town, so maybe it would be more county water. But it's not a well.
Yeah, this is all on campus, which is 140 some odd acres, with dormitories and also family housing and academic buildings. So I believe that they put us all on county accessible water just because of all the bodies that are living on campus.
Yeah, but one thing too that we have some rain harvesting tanks in the area behind that cottonwood tree there to the right, top right corner. And we plan to add more rain harvest situations throughout campus that because we would rather, we want to conserve as much as we can also. So let me see so this is just an aerial view of the corn. That's right, the corn project. Okay. So once we harvested some of this corn, we harvested in 2 different stages. One, when it was milky, the kernels are milky, which means when you push down the kernel, the white stuff comes out. And so with that, we cut them off the cobs, grind them, which is what these 2 ladies are doing. The one on the left is my coach team mom. And so they grind the corn up into the bowl like that. And then we put them in the green husk and boil it for probably like 45 minutes or something like that. And it's basically like a little tamale, but with no meat inside. And it's really delicious. You can add chopped green chili and put it in there too. It's really, really good. It's an old style food. So we try to ask our elders or if we know ourselves traditional recipes, we try to share that. So this is another project that we have going on, our spiral gardens. So we asked a friend of ours to come down. She runs a garden up in Espanola. It's called Espanola Healing Oasis Garden. And she does a lot of permaculture things. And anyway, she came down and showed us how to do some spiral gardens. So this is going to help us with our water erosion. So when we do have those monsoon seasons in the summer, we get a lot of erosion. So we're trying to slow that down a little bit. This will help us conserve some water also. And, it looks nice. It's aesthetically pleasing. This is what it looks like from above. Now we have one more where that cardboard's at. We have one more spiral garden, and then we'll do 1 or 2 more below that. So this is on a slope, a downward slope. So This is one of our students helping make that second spiral. And this is another group. I also teach a few classes here on campus, continuing ed classes. One I taught this fall was called growing food in, I think it was growing cool weather plants or cool weather foods or something like that. So participants came and we started some stuff in the greenhouse. They got to take all that home, and then they helped us plant inside of this first spiral, and we put all things that could take frost. So then we have another section of our garden. It's called the turtle garden. And so it's in the shape of a turtle. I don't know if you can see that, but facing the top left corner is the head, and then the bottom, the other opposite corner would be the tail. The shell there, you can't really see the feet. There's feet on that cross area. There's little circles, and those are considered the feet, and then the shell. So the turtle represents Turtle Island, which is what some Native communities call North America, and or the Americas. And the shell is arranged like a Lakota medicine wheel. So, and the directional colors for that particular medicine wheel. So come to, being around, we average around 90 to 120 different tribes here per semester at IAIA. And over the years, I've come to find out that different tribes have different directional colors. Some have medicine wheels, and those it depends where you're from and what tribe you're from on what color goes with which direction. So this I have to specify is based off of a Lakota medicine wheel. So what we try to do is plant flowers that the bees are gonna, well, any pollinator actually will enjoy and go for. A lot of the stuff in here, we can make teas with it. We have yarrow that we can make, the ethnobotany makes the salves for it, for like cuts and things like that. We also have some lavender in here that the ethnobotany likes to do essential oils. So yeah, so the south area is red, the east is yellow, north is white, and west is it's black, but it's hard to find a black flower. So we get as dark as we can. We try to pick flowers that are significant to us in some way. I'm from Oklahoma originally. This is our flower that our state flower, but this reminds me of home. It's nice to have that there. This is part of our darker section, or I have found some black petunias, which is nice, and I do put those in there sometimes. But we have echinacea and lavender here. We try to do everything in our garden. Is basically our garden's a companion plant garden, so we plant everything together they're gonna benefit each other in some way. These are just common sunflowers for our yellow section, chamomile and cosmos for our white section. There's a squash blossom with a sleeping bee inside. And so that's our turtle garden. So now we're going to talk about a little bit our community gardeners and our food share. So this area right here, this garden is a half circle, and in the past we've just kind of done straight rows and nothing, no big deal. But this year we needed a space for our community gardeners. So our gardener decided we should do a half sun rays. And so each person, each student, staff, or faculty, or even alum, we invite alumni to do it too. can get each one of those sun rays. They can share it with someone, they can have it for themselves. We have all the seeds they need to grow. If they want plant starters, we can help them do that. And some of our people aren't familiar with growing in the Southwest, so we teach them those techniques, because growing out here is different than growing, in Oklahoma or California or somewhere where there's some moisture. So we're able to share those techniques with them. We're able to share our seeds from our seed library. And yeah, so it's a pretty good program. And then whatever sections that don't get taken, that don't get claimed, we just plant and to make it a food share situation where anybody can harvest from. So this is some of our students with a couple of our participants. They're helping them out there. This is actually our librarian. That's Melanie in the back in her spot ready. The librarian's from somewhere else. I can't remember where. She's from back east somewhere. So she's never grown out here, and she really enjoyed herself, learned a lot, and had some nice stuff to take home. This is one of our students' plots. He wanted to do corn and Taos red beans from our bank or our library. He's from Taos, so he wanted to have that stuff, when they need it for traditional doings. And he just told me yesterday that they actually were going to put that corn to use, that his sister's having a ceremony, and so he's going to be able to use, she'll be able to grind that corn for her ceremony. So that's really nice to know. This is just an overview shot of that. Oh, I see questions. Let me stop for a second.
Yeah, Teresa, I can read one too. I just got one in asking if there's what's the difference between, is there a seed bank and a seed library there on campus?
So here's the difference in the seed bank and the seed library. And this is from a friend of mine that helped us come do this spiral garden. So a bank is so associated with like money or some kind of monetary value or something like that. And our seeds are not, that's not what we keep them for. That's not what we use them for. That's not what we relate them to. These are basically our ancestors, our ancestral seeds. We were given to them, or they were given to us here at the Institute by different tribal communities, different people. Sometimes people come and for conferences or something, and they'll call me over, and they want to present me with seeds from wherever they're from. So a library, the way she mentioned it to me, a library is more about sharing. You can check out books at a library. It's free. There's no problem. So this is more, that's just the way, there's not two different things. It's just the wording, the way that we want to look at it, the way, why are we saving these seeds? The reason we're saving them here at IA is to share with our communities. So that's the difference in the just the wording, really. One more shot of that corn and beans. Oh, yeah. Okay, so we do try to do a lot of traditional growing methods. And so if you can notice here, there's this is called a waffle garden. Historically, Hopi and Zuni and these Southwest region natives, this is how they grow. So if you can imagine like Eggo waffle, that's what it's going to look like from above. In each little hole or little section, you put that specific plant. I put 2 or 3 different, like I'll put tomato, basil, and jalapeno together. in one of those little sections. Then you can amend that soil in there, because our soil out here isn't that great either. You can kind of tell by the color of it, but it doesn't have a whole lot of nitrogen. It's a lot of loomy soil here. So we can add our amendments into that little waffle thing. And also when we water, we know that that water is not going to go somewhere that it's not needed. It's going to go right to the root of those plants where they're needed. And in that way, we can conserve water a little bit. It's also like a dry farming method. We'd use flood irrigation. I don't know if anyone's from the Southwest, but like in Coach 2 where I live, we have a field, I think it's 10 acres. We don't have hoses or nothing like that. We have canals and water turnouts. So you have to, like, when you flood out there, I mean, it's a lot of water and it goes everywhere. You have to direct it and this and that. So we're doing something similar to that. So we watered like this with that little microphone looking thing. It's called a bubbler. And we just set it into each plot and let it fill accordingly. This is another shot of our corn and the flood irrigation stuff. And this, we'll talk a little bit about our seeds. This is our blue corn, originally from Santo Domingo, Pueblo. So this is our little library. We have 2 sections like this. This is just our file cabinet in our office. When we first started in 2010, we probably had, oh gosh, we had probably about 5 of those little jars, and we didn't have any big jars. We had a couple medium-sized jars. So this is what we've collected over the years. And this is all actually stuff that we have, we didn't purchase, we collected them outside once everything's ready to go. This jar on the left, that's Amaranth. It's got like kind of pinky looking. Those are the petals of the Amaranth. That's actually a really sacred plant that was colonized in when the Spanish came to the Mayan region. It's a superfood. You can, at the time they had it growing all over the place, mountains of it. And it was just, they just decided, no, you can't grow that anymore for various reasons. And there was really harsh punishment for if they were caught growing it. So a lot of the farmers they put them in containers, potteries or whatever, and hid them for a long time, years, hundreds of years. And then, so now we're helping bring that back. And of course, that's not our idea. That was someone that shared that information with us, and then we share it also. Okay, so this is some of our, this is some of our flower seeds from our turtle garden. So we go out and collect those every year and save those. We put them in the refrigerator if they need to be cold for a while, stratification. This is, we take with this is actually something that grows wild. It's, what is it, Melanie? She's the one who asked it. Not globe mallow. Golden beard or something like that.
Yeah, golden crown beard. Yeah.
Golden crown beard. Yeah. She said this stuff makes the honey taste really nice. So this is a wild plant that could be considered invasive. But, since we have a use for it, we start collecting the seeds for it. With some of those seeds, we make seed bombs, which, and here we go, here's some of those. And I'll show you in a minute what we do with those. Actually, this is what we do with them. This is another one of our projects. We're trying to build a pollinator oasis. Our campus is really, you can see there's nothing really growing out here. So we have the bees and all the pollinators that we want to have. We want them to have food. So we had a project where we built some lasagna beds along some sidewalks. That's actually a 3-phase project, 3-year project, where we'll continue to do these lasagna beds throughout campus. Ask the community come help us make seed bombs, and then we put them in these beds. And this was pretty successful with it this year. Here's another photo. This one at the bottom is this floor is at the bottom. That's our Pollinator Oasis area. So Melanie will talk about a little bit more about that soon. This is our hot compost area. So we can have compost ready to go in 3 weeks. We've mastered that. In the summer is when we really can get it going because of the weather. But yeah, so this is a good sustainable project for students. We had a continuing ed class. When was that? Last winter. We did a continuing ed class and showed people how to build one of these. Also with the lasagna bed garden, that was another. It was like a sustainability whole series, and we taught them how to make lasagna beds, how to do this, those things. And so, yeah, and then we'll go on to the bees, the world of bees.
Teresa, we've got some questions
okay, yeah,
about,
sure.
First of all, someone wants to know what you add to the compost to get it moving so fast.
Okay, so the compost, the hot compost method, you layer your green and brown materials. You layer them, and it's got to stay moist, like if you're going to wring a sponge, but no water comes out. So the first couple days, I think, first few days, you build your pile in one day or whatever, and then you let it sit for a couple days, water it. You take its temperature. We have a long thermometer we poke in there, and really you can tell when it starts to warm up, you can feel it. But we put our thermometer in there, and once it reaches about 150 degrees, the interior, you take the exterior of that pile and you basically flip it. You take the exterior, you put it in a little pile, then you take the interior, that hot part, and you put it around that pile that you just made. And then, so after that first couple of days, when you do that first initial flip, then you flip it every other day, and you keep watering it every day, take its temperature. And once the temperature stops rising, it's ready. And ideally it's 3 weeks. It could take up to 2 or 3 months. So depending. And the pile should not be bigger than 5 foot by 5 foot. But what we discovered is that if it's closer to a pile that's 3 foot by 3 foot, that's when you're going to get your compost faster. And it's also less, it's hard to move that pile. You need help. We have a whole crew that helps us, but that's how we get it to go that fast. And one thing you can kind of add, if your pile is not heating up, you can add within those layers, you can put some manure, and that'll help it heat up. Are there any more questions on
Thanks, Teresa. Yeah, we've got some questions about the amaranth. Wondering if you mentioned what region amaranth originated.
So amaranth comes from the Mayan region of South America. So that's the Andes, where they have all those mountains, that mountain region right there. And so, like you said, it's a really sacred plant. So in those days, they had ceremonies surrounding that plant. Their warriors fed on that. And you know, the pyramids and all these things, they were mathematically, it had to do with the amaranth. It's really a superfood. And the way I was told is when the Spanish came, they were basically torturing their warriors, doing all kinds of things. And they're like, why aren't they falling? What's the deal? What's wrong? Are these really people, or, you know, what's up? And then they just, you know, they noticed that they had ceremonies and around this plant and their seeds and the harvest and what have you. And they noticed that that's what they were eating. The warriors ate. And so they said, okay, no, you're not doing that anymore. And so they cut them all down, burned them all up. And if they were caught growing them, if those farmers were caught growing them, they would cut their hands off. But yeah, that's the Mayan region. It's in South America.
Thanks, Teresa.
Mm-hmm. So this is our work study. We have different bees on different locations around mostly northern part of the state here. So we take them on little trips and they check them out, and some of them have gotten really comfortable with the bees. It's great for their morale. And I mean, these things are fascinating. So of course, that's Melanie on one of our sites. I think she was looking for the queen. So we all know how to look for the queen now. We all can tell the boys from the girls. This is one of our continuing ed classes that Melanie teaches. And we have, you know, we're an art school, so we do have people to help us film and things like that. And this is just another one. Our students we have our bee boxes, and Melanie wanted the students to go ahead and paint them and do some artwork on them. And so this is some of the stuff that they did. The one top right-hand corner, some of our students are studio arts majors, so they have to take classes to teach them how to use all the tools. We have a wood shop, a metal shop. We have all kinds of stuff over here. But this gives them, those studio art majors, it gives them opportunity to get comfortable with those tools. And, you know, I can show them a couple little tricks of the trade to make life a little bit easier doing that this way. This is when we harvest our honeys. We put in an extractor. We had a whole little celebration around it. It was a lot of fun. And this is our final project, our Thunder Bee honey. And this will go to like guests and donors and things like that for the school. So we have a summer bridge program where incoming freshmen, fresh out of high school, come and spend about 3 weeks right before the fall semester. They take a class. I can't even remember the name of the class, but Melanie and I teach it. It's having to do with sustainability. Do you remember the name of that class, Melanie?
Yeah, it's global climate change and indigenous perspectives.
Yeah, that's a long one. Yeah. So it's a lot of fun. They get into it and they really help us. This is one of our another lasagna bed. These guys just, you know, put that together right away, and they were excited to put those flowers in. We did a lot of transplants from one of the places here, and look, they're so proud. They wanted to take a picture by it. I thought that was really, really great. So our group was about 3 times this group. We break them off into several different groups. This is we installed some raised beds behind our greenhouse, between our greenhouse and our apiary, and within those raised beds, this group did more lasagna beds, and then now they get to plant. I think they're planting tomatoes or gourds. I can't remember. And then we have a restoration project, like Melanie mentioned before. We're sitting on, I think, 146 acres or something like that. So our campus only takes up a little amount of that. And then we have some like a disc golf course, and then we have a nature trail. But the buildings and the golf course have caused a lot of erosion within our 140 acres. So we're trying to stop some of that erosion. We're trying to bring in some more plants, maybe some more trees. If you notice in the back, there's all that juniper and it's just all bushed up. So Paul has started thinning those out. And a few years back, there was I think it's called bark beetle infestation, where it took a whole bunch of our piñons here in New Mexico. And so here on campus, we didn't have any piñons. But once he started to cut those junipers down, there's at least one little juniper underneath, not juniper, I'm sorry, one little piñon underneath all those junipers. That's just because those are companion plants too. And so part of our restoration project is to add more piñon, add some more other trees and plants that students can use for basket weaving and art projects like that. And so we had one of the guys from the Forestry Service, and he also teaches a class at UNM, come down and do a tour with us and talk to us about, what we're going to be doing, and do a little collaboration with them. Right here, the Summer Bridge students are doing a bio blitz. So we picked, I think, 3 different areas of campus. They went and found as many plant species as they could. And then after that, we threw out some seed bombs. So then next year, the next group will come in and do the same thing. And we'll see if we're, actually adding, if these things are taking, if we're getting more plants or what have you. That's them throwing out the seed bombs right there. So this is some of our chili that we grew in our garden this year. We have a hogan on part of our campus. We have an outdoor cooking space. So we cooked over fire, and we roasted these chilies, made tortillas. We had a good old time. We did that once a week with different things that we harvested in the garden. And so this is our amaranth harvest. That's actually my friend who came and helped us. Her name is Beata Sosipena. She's from Santa Clara. So this is the ethnobotany and some other community members that we invited everybody, but the ethnobotany class, they always come. We love working with Tom, our instructor, our professor. So so Beata really, she explained everything about the plants, taught how to harvest them, how to winnow the seeds. This was actually during our open house for the school. So we made it a nice big event. We had a lot of participants. Everybody had a really good time. And she explained to us that when you're doing this, it's a celebration, and it should be this should be celebrated. These are our plant relatives. And so that's what we did. I'm sorry about these pictures. Some of them aren't that great. So this is our greenhouse, and this just kind of shows our little tree saplings that we have ready for our planting later this year. In the spring, we're going to put all those out. We try to fill this area up with, we eat a lot of microgreens here at IA. So we have a lot of microgreens that we take the food over to our cafe. They put it in the salad bar, whatever. We start all of our outside plants, like not all of them, but a lot of them. We start all of our chili, tomato, those more delicate plants that we have a short growing season here. So we can get a nice little jump start. Like for instance, we're going to start some pumpkins soon in the greenhouse because, those take quite a while, and we can, if we put them outside, we just don't have time to get any pumpkins. we have 2 raised beds inside of this greenhouse. One has strawberries that a lady from Taos donated to us. Melanie and I went out and cleaned out her garden one day, and we had enough strawberries to fill 2 of these raised beds, but we just put them in one, and then we put some in these overhanging pots. The other raised bed usually right now it has a lot of mint, so I think we're going to do that, make it an herb garden. That was just a sort of an experiment to see, if we're going to get a higher yield from that, in which we did. We also have a junior master gardener program. It's for youth from ages 5 to 17. And we've done this for about 3 or 4 years now, and it's sort of evolved now into, we started out with Texas A&M curriculum, which is really great, but we still use that, but we add in our Indigenous perspective so that they have, our children have both viewpoints as children, and not as, for myself, I didn't know both viewpoints until I was in college, and we don't want that. We want them to know right away as they're growing up about things. So so that's it.
Teresa, thank you so much for taking us on a tour. I feel like I just toured around your gardens. We do have there's another question in the chat here asking if you can explain a little bit more about your process of making lasagna beds and any origins, connections to Indigenous growing methods.
Okay, so the lasagna bed method, it's similar. It's actually kind of similar. The way you set it up is to the hot compost. So you it doesn't have to be within it doesn't have to have like a surrounding, like for ours, we put rocks around it, or we did the raised beds. It can just be a mound. And what you do is you start out with cardboard, and that's like a weed barrier, and it holds some water in. Then you put a layer of manure, and then you put a layer of a brown, something like leaves, or we used straw one time. Sticks, whatever you got, old from last year's weeds with no flowers. You don't want flowers or seeds on those weeds. And then the next layer is a green layer, and you just layer it brown, green, all the way to get to the however tall you want that. And then you top it off with compost and a pretty good little, like a thicker layer of topsoil. And then again, you irrigate that. It's basically a living soil, and over time it breaks down. But also you just go ahead and put your starts in there, your seeds, your starts, or whatever. And it's kind of like just planting in the compost pile, and it really works good. It retains water really well. The plants do. I was surprised. This was my first year trying it, and I was surprised. Yeah.
Great. That sounds fantastic. Thank you so much, Teresa. Melanie, are we going to pass it over to you?
Yeah, I'm ready to share my presentation. Weaves into Teresa's, and kind of shows how our practices have not only an immediate sort of direct participation, but then as they connect to the broader landscape and the larger world, and also to our communities near and far. So I'll go ahead and do share screen. And can you see that?
Yep, looks great.
Yes.
Oh, good. Okay. So, and I'll share the link for this too, if folks want to come back to it, because I did this online. I started learning how to use the story maps, which I'm really liking, but it was a little bit different in terms of how it presents. And so Teresa did a phenomenal job. Thank you so much, Teresa. Teresa and I work hand in hand with all of our programming efforts, and we each have our specializations. And so when we decided to present, we figured it'd be good for us to kind of parse it out that way, because there's a lot of different things and cool things that we do. So my name's Melanie Kirby, and you know, Kat already did such a nice introduction of me, but just as a recap, I serve as the extension educator here at IAIA in our land grants program, and I specialize in apiculture and pollinator ecology, but that has really evolved over the years. I got started with bees 25 years ago as a Peace Corps volunteer, and then they've taken me around the world and really opened my eyes to the broader concepts of food systems and also cultural practices in regards to growing foods and saving seeds. And so I consider myself a seed saver of sorts, but where the bees are the seeds, hence the title of this program, and really looking at finding those locally acclimated and adapted pollinators of varying kinds to then nurture and help support and not only conserve them, but then to be able to share them. So just kind of as a recap of what Teresa was talking about, but sort of also to launch it into this next section. You know, we are a 1994 land grant institution and actually a tribal college. And so we are actually not affiliated with any one single tribe. As Teresa mentioned, we have close to 190 different tribal nations represented on our campus. And so that really allows us to interact with students from a variety of backgrounds. And while every tribal community is very distinct and unique, there are some shared outlooks, or what we would call our Indigenous worldview. And so that's really what we kind of hone in on when we look at, you know, this turtle island, which I have here in our next slide, and in the programming that then we're able to provide. So while we have our direct sort of practices rooted here in the Southwest, because this is where we are in terms of our landscape, we also try and include information for all various regions and for all of our relatives near and far. So we actually also offer what we call the 4 Directions Projections program, which is a free online webinar series, which features Indigenous thought leaders, scholars, farmers, entrepreneurs, scientists, artists of all varying backgrounds who come and share with our audiences. And so if you want more information, we'll give you our website link at the end, and you can always see when we're offering programming. And as Teresa mentioned, we do stuff with continuing ed as well. So some of our programs are more set up like courses, and others are available for free just for the viewing. She also mentioned our Junior Master Gardener program, which, yes, as she mentioned, it's evolved over the years. And so we have really become more active in indigenizing the program, which we use the 4-H Junior Master Gardener program from Texas A&M University, which she mentioned. And so our perspective is taking the traditional ecological knowledge, or TEK, and actually pairing it with Western agricultural science in a complementary fashion where appropriate, right? Because some things are quite distinct, but what we like our youth to learn about is that there's numerous knowledge systems out there, and both have a lot of validity to them. And so it's nice to be able to use them in complementary fashions to help learn. And one of the things too that, you know, when Teresa was talking about our garden beds and using drip, and we have a greenhouse, but we also do ancestral ways of growing. We have some waffle beds that we've done in the past as well. It really is our focus, and I want to say sort of our mission, you know, being that we're at IAIA, we are not only, you know, have these roots of heritage that are very ancestral, but we also are very contemporary peoples. And so we really like to promote not only what has occurred and has brought us to today, but then also where can it lead us to in terms of the modern age and where that goes, and really showing that it's not an either or, that we really can do these together. So I wanted to bring this up in terms of our indigenizing youth agriculture, we have a Guide the Mentors course that we're putting on right now. It starts next week. Our first session is full. Our second session has just a few slots open, and it is specifically for educators who are working with Indigenous youth. So if you know of somebody or if you yourself are interested, I'll share our email at the end, but we do just have just a few slots left, and they're a repeat of each other. So session 1 and 2 are the same. We're just offering them at different times. And if we have enough interest too, we'll continue to then offer another session later on this year as well.
Melanie?
Yes.
Before you move on from your projects, we have a question in the chat wanting to know if the virtual programming is available to all, including folks who are in Canada or outside of the States.
Yeah, for our 4 Directions program, it's available to all. Everybody's welcome, and it's all ages as well. And for our continuing ed courses, those that are virtual, as long as people have a computer and internet access, they can register for a course. And I'll put the link for our CE course listings in the chat afterwards if anybody's interested, because they offer all sorts of programming, from greenhouse management that Teresa is the instructor for. She's done that for a number of years, to the compost building, but then also they include things such as poetry and memoirs and photography and all sorts of different classes that folks can take through our CE program. She mentioned the trees that we've been growing, and she showed pictures of our, you can see the microgreens here in the background in this shot. Yeah, we've been nurturing, I should say, some saplings that we're going to get ready to transplant. We've had them for a little over, not quite a year, but at least a half a year. And we want to get them to a point where we can start to transplant them outside. So we have sumac and chokecherry and pinon. And as she mentioned, these are all multi-purpose plants, right? Because not only will they provide shade in our warming climate, but they will also provide harvestable materials that our students can either use for arts and crafts, and also food that we can also eat, and also habitat for additional plant and animal relatives. She showed our seed bombs, and so we do wildflower mixes with a high desert and high plains mix due to our location. And so anytime we do programming or with our students, we try to match our activities with their growing season as well, so that it's appropriate for their region. She talked about our Pollinator Oasis, and this is where I'm going to kind of launch off and really go a little bit more in depth. I saw we had a couple questions in the chat about native bee species, and so I'll talk more about that as well. And so part of this, is not only in order to help reconnect, with our ancestral foodways, but to also help revitalize the habitat. And as Teresa mentioned, where our campus is located is kind of on the outskirts of town. It's actually a very high wind corridor. And so we've had to find ways and I want to say consultant support to really learn more about this particular plot of land and how to rebuild the habitat once they also put in all this construction. And they are also still expanding out here. We have new buildings going up. They're going to be redoing family housing. The campus originally used to be closer to downtown. That's actually where the Museum of Contemporary Native American Art is, which is our Institute's museum. And so once they moved out here, it's taken a while. Like as Teresa mentioned, it's been about 10 years since our program got started. I came on board a year and a half ago, and they had just redesigned the program. And so we've been really encouraged to be creative in how we approach things, but also how we develop programming that includes our campus, but then also can reach our audiences around the world. And with the pandemic, one of the more positive things to come out of it has been this sort of virtual space. I like to call it Zoomlandia, where we can connect. I mean, even conferences such as this, where people are coming in, from all over, and we're able to share time and space together and share our stories with each other. So Teresa is also, she's very humble, but I always like to toot her horn for her. She's a master carpentress, and she built these wonderful solitary bean nest blocks for us. So as part of our larger habitat restoration program, which I'll talk a little bit more in depth about in a few minutes, we really wanted to get to know, so what type of pollinators do we have out here, and what type of bees do we have out here? What type of birds do we have out here? And so we decided to start with our solitary bee nest blocks. And since we are a contemporary art school, we involved our students as well. So she made these beautiful nest blocks with various size holes in them, and then put roofs over them, because we have very extreme temperatures here in New Mexico, or what's also called the land of enchantment. I like to call it the land of diversity and adversity. We can have 40 to 50 degree temperature swings daily. And, the joke kind of is, you can go through all 4 seasons in one day. You start off in the morning bundled up, and then you're down to a light sweater, and then it's like really hot, and then you have to kind of go reverse again. And so we wanted to make sure that these nest blocks had good covers. And a lot of the solitary species, some live in the ground, some drill holes in trees, some are also like clay. And so we thought by providing these nest blocks, we could at least get a snapshot view. And then we're also have plans to make additional solitary nest blocks out of clay with our studio arts classes in the ceramics department, and a few other ideas that we're working on as well. But these were some of the designs. We did a design contest, and so you can see how beautiful a lot of these different submissions were of our nest block program. And these got put around out on campus, and so we're going to see who moves in. Here's a few pictures of what I know we do have, because I've been going out regularly during the warm season to capture pictures. We do have some sweat bees, these little halictid bees that are bright green, metallic. We also have some digger bees that live in the ground. And this is actually on some apple blossoms from our orchard. We have hummingbird moths, or these white-lined sphinx as well, and I have a little video here of them flying around in our beautiful garden. You can see the amaranth in the background, and also part of our turtle garden back there too. And it's amazing to go out there in the middle of summer, because it's just so many different kinds of birds and butterflies and all sorts of different kinds of bees are out on these flowers. So it's really it's a really nice, I want to say a space that's very therapeutic as well, and we have Teresa mentioned that big cottonwood tree. We have a pumpkin, a picnic table underneath there, and she mentioned our nature trail too, and so we're going to be adding on to those and putting interpretive signs, and as we plant our trees and really create more of our pollinator oases plots around, really make it a space where folks can come and enjoy. And also do disc golf if that's what they want to do. We have various bumblebee species here on our campus as well. And she did touch upon our honeybees, and we do have a few hives here on campus. And as she mentioned, we also have some spread around in other places. We are very keen to not oversaturate an area. And one of the things I like to share with folks, because I happened to fall into beekeeping, pretty randomly. I didn't grow up doing it. I only became more familiar with this world 25 years ago, but there actually, we actually do have a North American native honeybee. It's called Apis mellifera nearctica. However, the fossils that have been found of it, which are 14 million years old, they were found in Nevada, indicate that there was some type of climatic event. So like horses, they actually used to be here pre-contact. But then things changed. And so what I like to consider now are the honeybees that we have here now are cousins to this ancestor bee. And so a lot of these different, honeybees are endemic to Asia, Africa, and to Europe. And so a lot of those honeybee species actually share space with also solitary bees there. So there's a symbiotic relationship that can happen, and we're really keen on trying to focus on that and not to oversaturate with any one species. So we have our thunder bees, which we have an apiary behind the greenhouse, and then we also have them a few offsite. Somebody had asked in the chat, what kind do we have? And we actually have mixed stock. I have a small farm where I've been specializing in queen bee breeding for 25 years. And so what I do is I actually look for those strains that adapt well and that are highly pest disease resistant naturally, and that can handle our temperature swings. And then I basically nurture those particular strains. So that's where the sort of bees as seed saving aspect comes in, because I'm trying to find those bees that have acclimated and then nurture those, and then we share them regionally here. And we have designs in the works to do some programs, because we do have a lot of interest. You know, when I got started with beekeeping, it was way before it got trendy. And then in 2006, when colony collapse disorder hit the airwaves, a lot of people thought, oh, you know, I want to save bees, I'm going to become a beekeeper. And that's done two things, you know, pros and cons. You know, on the pro, it's made more people aware, but on the con, it really has oversaturated the emphasis on just one species. So I consider honeybees to be sort of this exploited poster child of pollinators, but they do introduce folks to the broader world. And the main difference between honeybees and other solitary bee species is that honeybees are a superorganism that actually live in a social community, right, as a hive or a colony. And they produce not only their own wax, which is what they build their honeycomb with, that serves as their nursery and their pantry and their dance floor, their communication board, but it's also a space where they're able to keep storing and keep growing. So a lot of the solitary bee species will only collect a little bit of nectar and a little bit of pollen for what they need to rear their young. And they're what you call eusocial or completely solitary, right, where they live alone. Whereas honeybees live in this social setting, and they're actually able to collect substantial amounts of nectar if there's enough flowers and forage around, and store extra. And so one of the reasons they've become so popular with people is because they're the only species that actually produces extra honey, which is also a medicine and a food medicine that has really helped in a variety of ways, not only by eating it and ingesting it, but also topically and using it on wounds. And so one of the things I like to share with folks is that apiculture in general, or beekeeping, really has its roots in traditional ecological knowledge. And it really did start with indigenous peoples. You know, some of the most, you know, the oldest known cave paintings are found in Spain, in this area called the Cueva de las Arañas in Valencia, and it actually shows honey hunters, which actually were female. The depiction of those paintings show a female climbing a tree to harvest honey with a little basket. And so those were indigenous peoples who were tending to these marvelous creatures. And so our efforts are to reconnect with our pollinator relatives of all different kinds. But of course, one of the nice things about having honeybees is that we do get wax, which our students can use for various art projects. We're also able to use it for making different salves and balms. In fact, I have a lip balm right here. And also then honey, which we had an amazing monsoon season this past year, and so we didn't actually anticipate having a harvest this first year, but we actually got a little bit, and so we've been sharing it with our community and for different events. So all of this really kind of reconnects us to our Indigenous worldview and our land ethic as Indigenous peoples, recognizing the fact that we are all interconnected. I love this photo of Teresa. I just happened to find it randomly online, and I called her up one day and I said, do you know that they have your photo on this website? And she's like, oh yeah, it was actually for the NRCS. And they had come out to do some photos, but you can see this beautiful garden, and it's really because of the gracious and toilless, I want to say, hours that people like Teresa and our gardener and our students put in, that really nurtures these landscapes. And so it really helps to build this sense of community through various life forms, right, from the soil up. So she didn't touch upon it too much, but noticing that some of our soil erosion issues. She mentioned, we have low nitrogen in the soil, things like that. We've been on a mission to start to build in more cover crops. We have some buckwheat plots. Actually, we're near where those spiral gardens was where there was some buckwheat a little bit past that. And so, we've got a lot of different sort of irons in the fire. And as farmers and growers, and for those who are here, who are interested in seed or growing seed, I think we all recognize, how from the ground up, right? And especially with shifting weather patterns, the need for water or too much water. I mean, all these things, they really kind of require us to keep learning and to remain students. And so along those lines, we, as I mentioned, we reached out to a few consultants. And so the professor, the ecologist, who Teresa mentioned earlier, who teaches a class with UNM sustainability, is also splits his time with what's called Partners of Fish and Wildlife, which is a part of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Program. And so him and one of his interns have come out and helped us do some land mapping. We actually have some biocrust. This is this really interesting picture. It's called, he labeled it as our IAI's living skin. And so we're trying to preserve those areas because it helps to build topsoil, right? And to really allow for more plant growth and more biodiversity. We have some, this is that big cottonwood tree, but from the reverse side now. And so we have some runoff. So we're working on trying to build different kinds of berms, and taking our students out as well, and doing, you can see she has a net here of doing some more insect identification. And we are, I don't think this got mentioned, but I would like to focus on it for a minute. All of our practices are organic, and we also really try to take in holistic management processes when we're developing anything that we do. So even with our insect identification, as you saw, it's photographs. I'm not into pinning. I have a degree in entomology, and I had to get special permission for my taxonomy class because I just don't agree with actually having to pin insects, at least live ones, and so our efforts are really trying to look at things in a more holistic and biodynamic manner, which all those words, regenerative, biodynamic, permaculture, all of those have their roots in traditional ecological knowledge. She mentioned as well some of the other sort of water catchment things we're doing, and our studio arts ceramics department made us, these are called rain oyas. And so these are going to get actually planted outside, and they will capture rain and then slowly seep out, so they can help to keep some of our beds and various areas watered. I'm really just showing that, whether it's through water or land, and also sharing stories, how we really can not only complete the cycle, but also focus on reciprocity, which is very important to us. So I'm going to share this little video with you all. This is one that one of our students put together of our bee program, and hopefully it'll play here.
Especially right here in these low areas.
Can y'all see that?
Looks great.
Yes.
Quickly. They have these things called biennial, which is just like the lid that I took off cured properly and freshen the bee. We have one of these at the farm like that. Like tables have it like just the frame, but it's tall. And you can put at least one frame out, space it out, and we use a blower Make sure she has enough honey. I don't see very much honey up here. So, okay, I'm gonna put this one back.
Yeah, so that is that. And let me see, I'm trying to see if I can get back to, I might have to stop share for a minute, sorry, and get back to the to the main screen that we had, because I tried to enlarge that one and I think it kind of, I don't know what it did, it changed it a little bit here. But yeah, so we, and that's what's really cool too, is since our students are also studying different things from film and digital arts to the studio arts to creative writing to entrepreneurship, Indigenous liberal studies, museum curation. We're really able to kind of nurture that within our program, and whatever they're interested in sharing with us, then we're able to do. Oh, let me see. I think there we go. I can go back here. Can you see that? Or am I back to the main screen again?
It's, we can't see the full screen. No, it's.
Oh, okay. I
pretty
think I
small.
found it now. Let me try it again.
Melanie, while you're bringing that up, I'm just gonna also time check us. We've got about 4 minutes left in the session.
Okay.
And
I will wrap this up.
okay, we did have a couple of other questions in the chat, but I'll let you, why don't you go ahead and wrap up, and then
Okay,
we'll see if we can get to them. Thanks.
Do you see the larger screen again?
Yes, it looks great.
Okay, good. So yeah, just a few of our additional projects and collaborations. We're Santa Fe is a part of the BCD USA, and Xerxes Society is putting together a larger pollinator trail, and so our campus is on that map. We've done various workshops with the Santa Fe Indian School, but also other community schools in our area, working actually with the monks out at the monastery, who they use a lot of wax for their candles and for their gift shop, and so we help them with their bead program. We also do programming for veterans through the Veteran Farm Corps program up in Taos, which is a rehabilitation center up there. We have one of our apiaries is at Plants of the Southwest, which also is where we source a lot of our trees and various native plants that we use. And yeah, these are just a few of our different collaborations. And like I said, I can post this link for this particular slideshow in the chat if you want to go back to it or share with those who might want to learn about us. And we also, of course, work with other Indigenous organizations, Flowering Tree Permaculture Institute, Tesuque Pueblo. We do things with Quivira Coalition, where we've done some presentations for them, and other universities offering classes. We also do some collaborations with National Geographic, and we have a new collaboration coming up in the works that we're pretty excited about. I realize I probably can't even say what it is, but it's just really cool. So stay tuned. And this is, Teresa mentioned our summer bridge program, where we had incoming freshmen. This is some of the artwork that they came up with from our class that we, as their final projects. And so it's really amazing to be able to not only share with each other, but bring our different perspectives and to walk in these multiple worlds, and to really show where they can weave together for supporting food systems that are healthy, seeds that are clean, and that have their stories intact, that we can continue to share with each other. So I will stop there. Thank you.
Thank you, Melanie and Teresa. We do have a couple of minutes, and I think let's check a couple of questions perhaps in the chat. Someone was hoping that you could repeat the name of the ceramic rain catcher that you mentioned, that would be slow releasing the water into the soil.
Right. Teresa, you want to answer that one?
Those are rain oyas. And so like she said, our ceramics class did that. So those are going to go and be installed into our spiral gardens.
Yeah, and I would just add, olla in Spanish actually means like a bowl or a vessel, or like a pot, right? And so so it's kind of a combination of terms there.
Wonderful, thank you. And then let's see, we have a question here of, have you worked with different hive types, and how do you determine how to not oversaturate and make sure that supporting other pollinators alongside honeybees without them crowding it out?
That's a really good question. It definitely comes down to habitat. When we first launched our pollinator program, we started with our solitary bee nest blocks, and we didn't actually bring honeybees to campus until after we saw what kind of other other bee species we had. And so all the first bloom is mainly the fruit orchard bloom. And so all of that was for all of the solitary species. And then as we started to grow stuff in the garden and add more plants, then we actually brought in our honeybee species. Right here on campus, we have 2 top bar hives, which are the long sort of trough style hives. And then we also have one, what you call a Langstroth. They're a vertical stackable box system. And then we had 2 more of those vertical stack box systems hives over at the Plants of the Southwest Nursery, which is where that video was filmed. And this year we actually are doing, we're planning a tribal beekeeping project because we have a lot of folks who are interested. And a lot of folks are not looking to make a lot of honey or get into like mass migratory pollination. You know, they're just wanting to have it for biodiversity and also to help support the pollination needs that they may have, and then also for wax, for various medicines, and the honey itself is a medicine too. So we have plans to make some what are called Waré comfort hives this year. And slowly we also been talking about making some clay ones, which some tube ones that I'm really excited to try. So knowing that, though, we know we can't have all of those right here on campus, right? Because then we're at risk of oversaturating the area. How do we determine that? That's a whole other, I think a lot of it comes down to observation. When I started my farm in 2005, I was very, very careful about what I put in where. And so we actually run what are called micro apiaries, where it's a few hives in different places, which that way we're able to not only test them out in different locations, at least their stories, their genetic stories, right? But then also they can help pollinate different communities and we can get honey from different places. So we do have plans like the monks at the monastery have a couple hives and they're going to allow us to put some of our own out there. We're going to do some mating out there as well so that we get our locally adapted stock is what we're promoting. So we're not really into, moving bees from all different places. We do actually, one of our collaborations right now is working with some folks in Northern California who get a jump on the season, but they're using a lot of our New Mexico stock. And so we're excited to get some daughters off of those to share here.
Beautiful. Thank you, Melanie. And thank you both. Please join me in thanking and giving a little applause to our panelists for joining us today and sharing about such incredible and gorgeous work that you all are doing down at the university. And with that, okay, and Melanie is going to answer a few questions in the chat. We are over, so I do want to, there's nothing happening in this room. And so if you want to stay and swap information or anything, and maybe Melanie, you could drop the link to your
Sure.
to your presentation in there for folks. But with that, I do hope everyone has a wonderful rest of the day. There's several Synergy Space meetups coming up. And we'll be sending out an email tomorrow morning with links to what is on the docket for tomorrow, including a happy hour with a live musical performance in the evening, which I'm also really looking forward to. Thank you again for joining us.
I'll go ahead and put that link in the chat right now so that folks have it.
Great, thanks.
There you go. All right, thanks so much for joining us. And yeah, reach out. Our email it's on the end of that slideshow, but I'll just put it in the chat too. So in case anybody would like to reach out to us, we're always happy to talk with folks and to share information, and of course we can always do presentations virtually, and yeah, maybe you'd like to share some of your knowledge with us as well, and we'd love to be able to share our platform for that.
Awesome, thanks, Melanie. I'll add this link to your slideshow too in the comments so folks can find it in there.
Great, thank you.
I'm not sure if I leave the meeting, if I can close it.
Oh my God. I don't want, I'm afraid to press anything, so apart from share screen. Oh, yes, you can leave now, sure. And in fact, Teresa and I, we have a meeting with our supervisor coming up, so we have to vacate too.
All right.